Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Coffee with the Coaches. I'm Holly. I'm the RN Health Coach here at Lenovo in North Carolina. And joining me today is the lovely Kim Grady, registered nurse and health coach as well.
Morning.
So, hey. And Kim is based in Chicago, for those of you who didn't know that, and she serves the Chicago and Santa Clara locations. So we are never together. This is how Kim and I roll. This is our relationship, and it's a great one. So thank you for joining us today. So just a couple things right off the bat. For those of you who are joining us from California, again, our heart goes out to you. We're wishing you all the best. We hope you're safe. If you need anything from us or need resources, please don't hesitate to give us a shout out, and we're happy to do what we can for you. Another little shout out that I just wanted to put out there. I know lots of you have attended some of the events that we've had already in September, but September is Suicide Awareness Month, and we've had webinars, and I know Cigna's offered some great resources for managers. And again, for those of you out there who may be suffering from depression, anxiety that you find difficult to get through, or those of you who have known anybody who has committed suicide, our hearts go out to you. We have lots of great resources. You're not alone. It's okay to not be okay. So I just wanted to put that out there before we get started with our topic. So the topic that everybody wants to talk about already, even though we're just finishing up the summer, is cold and flu season. We are already here. It's kind of crazy. It's the middle of September, but flu shots are right around the corner. So we're going to talk about the flu today. We're going to talk about what your resources are in getting your flu shot. We're going to go with some polls. We are going to talk a little bit about COVID and the flu together, what that looks like, how you need to prepare. And we want to hear from you. We've got a couple of those polls, but we want to hear your questions. We want this to be as interactive as possible because we want to answer the questions that you want answered as well. So we're going to use the CDC website, which is a fantastic resource for information, whether it's COVID or flu related. So Kim, I think we've got a poll for people, do we?
Yeah, so let's start off with our first poll. Do you get your flu shot annually? Yes, no, not a chance. Wouldn't go without it. Give everybody a couple more seconds.
You want to take bets on this one?
I wish I could bet, but I can already see the answers, so it would be cheating if I was betting.
That's right. I can't see it. I'm going to guess that most people who are here get their flu shot.
No one's going to be surprised at this. So 75% of people voted, and every single person that voted gets their flu shot.
That's amazing. Yay, that is amazing. Good for you guys. Obviously when we have patients, people will ask, should I get my flu shot? And believe it or not, there are lots of people who don't get their flu shot out there. So with all of you getting your flu shot, we don't have to go into that spiel. However, we will talk about why it's more important than ever this year to get your flu shot with COVID. So we wanted to start by letting you guys know that Marathon Health will not be offering flu shots this year. Ooh,
sad face, sad news.
Yeah, and I love giving shots. Maybe that's for part of our Halloween theme for Coffee with the Coaches. I love giving needles. I do. I love that clinical part of being a nurse. I love being a health coach, but I do love getting into the clinical side of things too. But we are not going to be providing it. We're not on campus. Just the logistics of all of that with COVID, the whole deal is just too cumbersome. So we do, however, have lots of resources for you guys. So what I have up on the screen here, I'm going to move my screen thing out of the way, is lenovobenefits.com. And if you go from the homepage to health and then flu shots, you are going to see all of your resources. Sorry, here, I'm gonna get this out of the way. So you can get your flu shot, you, your spouse or domestic partner, your kids, everybody can get it for free, so long as you're going to your provider who's within your plan, or a pharmacy that is within the plan, okay? And that's Express Scripts. Kim, I'm going to try and move my screen around here. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to not see my face. I see my face in the screen and now I can't get rid of it. Let's see. I'm going to hide my webcam. Can you still see me?
Uh-huh.
Okay. There we go. Okay. So what you're seeing is the flu shot page. I mean, it's just some cutesy, fun information about why you should get your flu shot. But the highlights specific part down here says check your pharmacy, making sure that they're in network by going to prescriptions, find a pharmacy on the Express Scripts site. Now, I will tell you, the majority of the places that you're going to go are going to be on your benefits plan. So if you have any doubt, please don't hesitate to call their number. Click on here it is up here, questions, Express Scripts, the 1-800-282-2881. Please go ahead and get on there, okay? Now, all right. Now, so that being said, so let's talk about flu season. Is this flu season, Kim, going to be any different than other flu seasons? Like what are we hearing? Why is it more important to get our flu shots? That sort of thing.
Yeah, great question. So I think severity of the flu is always a big deal, right? Like it can always be an issue for vulnerable populations. However, this year we have the new variable of COVID-19, and as our participants are probably already thinking about, flu and COVID sound awfully the same, and you're absolutely 100% correct. So I think one of the biggest takeaways is if you can get your flu shot and eliminate the chance of you getting those strains of the flu that they think are going to be most prevalent in the United States, that rules out your chance of wondering if it's flu or not. Obviously, you'll probably still get tested with these symptoms either way. You'll probably get flu and COVID tested. Hopefully by that point in time, we can do it on one swab and not two, because tickling your brain twice, not once, doesn't sound like any fun to me at all. So that being said, by getting the flu shot, you're kind of giving yourself the insurance that you'll be able to rule out some things going forwards. So like the window you have up shows like there's a lot of cross symptoms, like 98% of them are the same. The only thing that's different is the taste component of the COVID virus. So the change in or loss of taste or smell. Yeah. I think it's gonna be tough. I think it's gonna be brutal because we're already in the middle of this pandemic, and then the flu also has the potential to be dangerous every year. So just focusing on infection control and how do we keep ourselves healthy through this time to boost our immune system so we don't get either one, I guess, would be my biggest focus.
Yeah, I think one of the important things to remember this year, so one of the significant things that people don't often think about, so as we're going into this particular flu season, cold and flu season, is that now we have a double whammy, right? So we have a pandemic, okay? We have this pandemic that is killing people more than the flu. That's a fact from the CDC website. That's not something that I've made up. But not only that, is as we go into flu season, so there's going to be this other virus floating around, plus a whole lot of other viruses that are going to cause colds and then maybe lead to pneumonia or severe bronchitis that are going to lead to other hospitalizations outside of COVID. So I know that right now we're all afraid of getting COVID, but as we move into cold and flu season, we need to be concerned about getting sick with other viruses as well, because what that's doing is that's putting a lot more pressure on our healthcare system and on our healthcare workers, those on the front lines. You know, I have older parents, you know, who they're snowbirds. They go down to Florida every year and they're still planning to go to Florida, which I think is crazy, but that's their own personal decision. And it's not because I'm afraid that they're going to get COVID. I'm just concerned about the overwhelming healthcare system. I think that if you end up in the hospital, whether it's in Florida, whether it's here, whether it's wherever you are, and we have gone up and increased our bedding capacity, is what we call it when we're in the hospital, increase the capacity in the hospital, then you have more patients, but you have the same amount of healthcare workers. Okay, so you can imagine the strain that that puts on. Not only that, if you're admitted to the hospital, no one's going in to see you. I'm just going to say, no one will be allowed in to see you. That was one of the big things that I was telling my parents when we were talking about it. And like, you know, it's going to be capacity in the hospitals with other people getting sick just because it's a different virus, just because people who are older, immunocompromised, are already going to be hospitalized for one reason or another over the winter. So just keep that in mind as we, if you, I know everyone here is getting their flu shot, but keeping that in mind as we move into cold and flu season. So if you know people who aren't, have them consider that instead, okay? So Kim talked about some of these similarities and differences. So, you know, we know here at Lenovo in North Carolina, we're not going back, we're not considering us going back until January, which of course, interestingly, is flu season, the peak of flu season here in North Carolina, January and February. So it's more important, and it will be more important than ever if we do go back in January to really, if you can be home, I think that grace is going to be there for you to be home, especially if you're compromised. But maintaining distance, wearing your mask, washing your hands. I know it goes without saying, and I know you hear it all the time, and I'm sure you're over it by now, but we have to do that if we're going to protect others. And the same protections go for both of these viruses because they're both respiratory viruses, right, Kim? So when also just wanted to note, when you're talking about the testing, so they have developed a test. It's a point of care test. Now, obviously, you know, will that be widespread use going forward? I don't know. But anybody who develops any number of these symptoms that you can see on the page there, you're going to get tested for both, because other than this whole, you know, losing the sense of smell and taste, there's no difference. So
also, you can get both at the same time. There's nothing that says like you can only get one or the other. You can totally get both at the same time. So,
and yeah. I hadn't thought about that. Like I hadn't thought about that, which I think is insane, because you hear from people who, I mean, you know, I've had the flu and it's horrendous, right? But then if you have COVID on top of that, man, that's no good. That is no good. So, and I also, one of the big things that I encourage my patients to think about is it's not just about you. I find that the majority of people who, you know, get the flu shot understand community immunity and, you know, vaccine health and that sort of thing. But it's not just about us as individuals, right? Because we often think, I'm not getting it, or there's some people who, I'm not getting it, I do get sick after, there's no way, and I never get the flu. And I hear that a lot from young people. And by young people, I mean people who are in their 20s. But the problem is, if you get it, you're young, you're not immunocompromised, you're really healthy, you're probably going to recover from it within 5 days or so, right? You're going to recover, your symptoms won't be as bad. But if you lay down that flu virus and someone else picks it up who's immunocompromised, someone who's going through cancer treatments, someone who, you know, has lung disease, they may end up getting a much more severe, they may get it first of all, but they may end up with a much more severe case of it and end up in the hospital and potentially dying from it. And I know that sounds, you know, harsh, but that's the reality, right? That's the reality of it. So I know that these aren't things that are new probably to most of you, but, you know, if you're having conversations, you know, spread the word, not the virus.
I like it. I like it. So yeah. I'm gonna take this chance. I want to poll the audience and see, like, how are you guys feeling? Do you have more concerns about this upcoming flu season? Yes, no, maybe. If you do or don't, let us know why, or like maybe what you're more concerned about. If you don't, maybe why you're not more concerned. give everybody a couple more minutes. Like Holly said, like the things that prevent the flu also prevent COVID. So it's convenient enough that, you know, washing your hands and staying your 6 feet of distance and wearing your mask, those prevent both. It's not like they isolate one or the other. So
I love this. Oh, once the poll's closed. We'll get to your question in just 1 second.
all right. So I can share the results. So 60% of people said yes and 40% of people said no. So a little bit more people are concerned than not.
Awesome. So Ron, where are you? You had a question. He had his hand raised. There you are. Hey Ron, I'm going to unmute you unless you want to type your question in the chat box.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, hey Ron.
Hi, just wondering, did the percentage follow an age group that you just got with the poll?
Ron, I wish we had the analytics that you would like us to have. And that's a very good question. And I would love to know the answer to that as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great question.
Yeah.
Because I already got my flu shot. That's why I'm
Nice.
saying.
Good job.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ron.
Mm-hmm.
Was it a simple process? Was it really easy? Tell the people.
Oh yeah. CVS just said, yeah, no problem. And because of my age, I had to get a special flu shot, and they had those in stock. So no problem.
Yay, that's fantastic.
Okay.
And that's a really great point that we'll hit on here now. So there are several types of flu vaccine out there. So for those of you that are 65 and over, there is a special vaccine. It's a high dose vaccination that basically contains more of the immune boosting antivirus, if you will. So when you go, if there's any of you who are 65 and older, please ask your provider for the high dose flu vaccine. It's only allowed to be given to those 65 and older, but it gives your immune system more protection. There was one other point that Ron made. So he got his right now. So the timing of the flu vaccine. So the recommendation for the timing is, can you hear that scratching? That's my dog scratching at the door. So the timing of the flu vaccine, the most ideal time to get it is September, October. So it's not recommended that you get it before that time because there is a risk that your immunity will decrease around peak flu season. So now is the most opportune time to get that. There's not a late time. There's no bad time later on to get that. So people come to us and ask, you know, in January, is it too late for my flu shot? It's never too late for your flu shot. I think you have to keep in mind that it does take your body a few weeks to build that immunity up. So keep that in mind too. So if you're thinking of going on October 29th, your immunity to those flu viruses is not really going to be in full force until mid to late November. Okay, that's a really important point to make. I like to get mine October 1, right? Because we start hearing about flu cases usually mid to late October, and that's when you're going to start getting your full immunity.
Yeah, fun fact about that new high dose vaccine, it contains 4 times the antigen. I was like, whoa, where's my hand? 4 times the antigen, which is what you said boosts the immunity from your body. So it's been proven in trials to help say that you make more, you know, T cells and that kind of stuff, white blood cells, to help fight off infection. So if that's something that's an option, I'd definitely be looking for that if you're in that crowd that's 65% and older. And it shouldn't be any more cost. It shouldn't change anything. Nothing is different. It's just a different dose of the vaccine.
Yeah, that's awesome. Please continue to send your questions or your comments through here as well. So I want to talk a little bit about the similarities from exposure, the similarities and differences in exposure. I think that's important to note because a lot of people have a lot of questions around COVID and when they were exposed and if they don't have symptoms, right? Because now what they're saying is approximately 40% of people who have COVID are showing no symptoms at all. So I think you have to be mindful and talk to your provider. Look at the CDC website in terms of the guidelines about, getting tested. So my husband does a lot of testing, so I have a little bit of firsthand knowledge about what's going on. But what happens is, so if you're exposed, the best time to get tested, now obviously if you think you have a firsthand exposure, that means being in the same vicinity, holding space with that person, being in close contact with them, to get the best result from your test. I mean, you can get tested the next day, but to get the best result from your test is the 5-day window. Okay, within the first 5 days after exposure, probably waiting a couple of days so that it shows up better on the test. So you don't want a false negative. Okay, that is one of the big things that I've learned. They are doing some point of care testing around, I know our area, Kim, I'm sure that it's probably the same in Chicago. Point of care testing is great, but there are some limitations with that. So having your blood, not your blood, you can do antibodies with your blood drawn, but doing the swab and sending it off to the lab is still the best way to get the best results. So even though it's quick point of care testing and we really like it, hasn't been around long enough to be, 100%. It's safe. It's just not 100% in terms of your positive negatives. Okay?
Yeah. And I think with what you're saying, I think it brings up a really good point. It's the same. The flu is the same in COVID, and the fact that if you're having symptoms, you should still isolate yourself. So if you have flu-like symptoms, you shouldn't be going to the grocery store. You shouldn't be going to work. You shouldn't be spending time around people you love. You should definitely be following the same kind of quarantine instructions as we've told people with COVID, because you don't want to spread the flu either. So just to keep that in mind, we've been telling people that with COVID symptoms from day one. If you have any symptoms, stay home. Like, please quarantine yourself, up to 14 days. With COVID, the flu is more like 10 days max. So just keeping in mind as well, I mean, there's also allergies and a zillion other things going on this season. So do the best you can clinical judgment wise. North Carolina, you have a nurse practitioner that you can call with us that can kind of walk you through those things and see if you need to get tested. The CVS, Walgreens, you can find all that stuff through your Cigna website, what's in your benefits, which you can do as far as care goes. But just definitely be aware, if you have symptoms, we don't want you out in public. Like, I don't want you to be a recluse either, but we also don't want you to be like out infecting everybody else.
Right. So even if you, and I think the important point there, Kim, and that's a really important point about the quarantining yourself, especially if you don't have symptoms, right? I mean, people feel like they're not contagious when we're not. It's like any other health issue. If you're not seeing signs and symptoms, we tend to feel like we're okay. But if you get a positive result, don't question it. Stay quarantined, stay home, stay safe, keep others safe. And by quarantined, I think it's also important to note, and I think with flu as well, if you're at home and you have a lot of people and anybody in your household who is immunocompromised, and this goes for flu, not just COVID, quarantine means keeping to yourself. That means in your room, away from other people, not walking about throughout the house, getting the rest you need, staying away, and cleaning. Right? And the people who are taking care of you should be wearing masks and washing hands frequently and that sort of thing. So that's really important to keep in mind when you're home, when you're quarantining, whether it's from the flu or from COVID-19. So a couple more things that we want to hit on. I think we're all aware of how it spreads, but I did find a really great graphic for people who are at high risk. Now, if you're at high risk for COVID, you're also at high risk for flu. That's exactly the same thing. Now, if I can find where I put it here. I
also refuse to believe that pregnant women are like immunocompromised. I think that's some nonsense. But
right. So the risks. So but that's a great point, Kim. Right. So people who are pregnant and like, this isn't a disease or a disorder and I'm really healthy, the risk is to the baby, right? So if you get it, then the baby's potentially going to get sick, sort of thing. So keeping that in mind. So this is a really great graphic, and I'm going to enlarge this. And Kim, let me know if let me see. Actually, I'm going to bring it up in PDF because it's much better. Ah, look at that.
Beautiful.
Isn't that pretty? All right. So COVID-19, all right, it's important to note that COVID-19 is its own specific virus. There's lots of coronaviruses, but COVID-19 is the one that has caused the pandemic. Hospitalization related to underlying medical conditions. And I think this graphic is really important because it tells you the risk based on what your condition is or how many of these conditions that you have. So having a respiratory condition like asthma, you're 1.5 times more likely to get hospitalized. So that's how you read this. Hypertension, so if you have high blood pressure, you're 3 times more likely to get hospitalized. Now this is COVID specifically. Obesity, having a BMI of greater than 30, that in and of itself puts you at risk 3 times more likely to be hospitalized if you do get COVID. So, and after this, we might have a minute to discuss sort of, how better can you take care of yourself, which we will talk about in our next Coffee with the Coaches. Diabetes, chronic kidney disease, severe obesity. So if your BMI is greater than 40, if you have 2 conditions or 3 or more conditions, you're 4 or 5 times more likely to be hospitalized with COVID. So that being said, Kim, I think, people want to know, well, how do you take care of yourself, right? How do we take care of ourselves during cold and flu season? So our next Coffee with the Coaches, which is, where are we? October, it's the October 29th one. We are going to be talking about self-care around immunity and what that looks like. We have added a handout to the presentation today about lifestyle choices and immunity. So I really encourage you, before we end the webinar today, to download that. It's important to take care of all of your health, right? Your preventative visits to your doctor, don't forget about those. You have to maintain all your regular immunizations, not just your flu shot. Eat well, exercise regularly. I mean, I know that goes without saying, but it's really important, right? So if we can boost our immune system and be as healthy as we can be going into cold and flu season among the pandemic, the better off we're going to be.
Think about exercise as like a whole body reset. Like it helps push out the bad stuff. It helps flush out the toxins. It helps get rid of the nonsense. Also, if you can exercise outside, that's a huge bonus. You can get your vitamin D and some sunshine, get some gratitude in there, be thankful that the sun comes out. Here in Chicago, I'm soaking up every day because come October, we go into this little dark world for a couple months, but that's life. That's how it is here. So I'm used to it. I'm prepared for it. Does anybody have any last questions or hand raising or anything else they want us to address before we kind of sign off for the day? We know it's close to time, so just wanted to make sure everybody had an opportunity to ask any questions they had.
Yeah. Please give us a shout. Let us know what you're thinking. Let us know anything that you're curious about. And if we don't have the answer, we'll find it and we'll let you know.
Yep. As always, we super appreciate you for joining us. We appreciate you taking the time out of your super busy day to spend a couple minutes with us talking about health-related things. As always, there's a post survey. Let us know what you thought, what you want to see going forwards. We've taken some of the suggestions we've gotten into our topics going forward, so those will be coming up in October and November. The next Coffee with Coaches, October 1st, is going to be the virtual benefits fair. So we're going to have all of the benefits providers on talking about what they're offering, if there's anything different with open enrollment. That's a big event for you guys coming up. So we'll have everybody on talking about that. So that's one you don't want to miss. And then Holly, you want to talk about the October 8th one?
Yes. So October 8th, we're super excited about, we're excited about all our Coffee with the Coaches because Kim and I love to do this, but October 8th, so we're doing an extra special. So it's going to be our extra edition of Coffee with the Coaches, specifically on women's health and wellness. And it's going to be an hour-long Coffee with the Coaches, and we are going to have a therapist who is a professor at NC State, and we're going to have a nurse practitioner, and we are going to have a financial consultant from Fidelity on to specifically talk about financial health, specifically for women. And so we're going to talk about mental health, physical health, all things women. And just because you're a man doesn't mean you can't join. All of our conversations are going to be pertinent. I think, I was listening to a podcast the other day, happened to be Michelle Obama's podcast, but she was talking about women's health and how important it is for men to learn about what's happening with women in different stages of our lives, just how it's important for women to learn about what's happening with men in different stages of their lives so that you can support the men and women that you love. So that doesn't mean that this October 8th edition is not for you, men, so you can join as well. And then October 29th, Kim and I have a special Halloween edition of Coffee with Coaches. We're really going to be focusing on immunity, boosting immunity, self-care of your body, your physical body, and how you can boost your immune system. So I think that covers October. So please let us know. We're going to have another email coming out with the registration link, which you should probably already have if you're on this one, because it's the same link, to join us in October. So as always, thank you for joining us. Don't hesitate to reach out. We will leave it open for a minute or so. If you have not downloaded the 2 handouts, one is the flu resources, the other one is lifestyle choices and immunity. So please go ahead. If we close it and you don't have it, let us know when we'll send it to you, okay? All right, guys, stay warm, stay safe, stay dry, and we'll see you soon.
Have a good one.